Hey, family. Welcome back to One on One with Cut Nice 50. I hope y'all having a safe holidays. This right here started my second episode on RF Kennedy Jr. And this one right here is going to be a long one, but it's going to be the most challenging and educational, informational episode that you ever watch in your life. These is about the amazing individuals that which often are unseen, unheard of, that are actually fighting to keep you healthy in this in the U.S. So the title of the video is called RF Kennedy Jr. hosts American Health Crisis Roundtable with doctors and nutritionists. If y'all don't know anything about me, nutrition over the last 13, almost 20, 25, 14 years, I'm passionate about this. It's my dream to help others live a healthier, balanced lifestyle when it comes to fitness, nutrition, exercise, and just great communication within their own family lifestyle. Generally always try to gear my workouts when I'm doing the personal training, whatever the case, based on the individual's lifestyle. If you're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning or you're waking up at 6 o'clock at night, that all changes the way you like to do things or the way your body operates or functions naturally based on, the way you live. So I always try to gear workouts tailored to individuals instead of those cookie cutter workouts. Nutritionists, like I said, over 13, 14 years, personal training over 25 plus years. So health and wellness was always a part of my lifestyle. I believe it's one of the things I was placed on this earth to do. When it comes to training, that was natural technique. I can look at somebody train on one time and I know what they're capable of, what they limits they can be pushed to, and we always keep progressing and going off of them. When it comes to the nutrition side, that was a little bit more tricky, but learning somebody's body after trials and tribulations, you gearing and working with them after a couple of days or so a week, then you get enough data that you can kind of gear their nutrition plan that's best suitable for them, where their metabolism is operating at the moment. And that's still based on the way they live their life. If they get enough sleep, if they're too overweight, body fat, height, male or female, all that comes into play when you talk about nutrition level. If you don't have the ability to fight off the fat, if you don't have the ability to burn calories, if your testosterone is low, if your hormonal balance is not right, if you're a female, if it's that time of the month, all of those things come into play when you're talking about nutrition level and fitness. So that's why I think everything is tied to tide. It was always one of my main philosophies is that the mental, physical, and spiritual all is interconnected, and it works to maintain a balance in your life, whether you realize it or not. That's why hopefully y'all find this right here exciting. Like I say, it could be boring at times, but this is information that we need to know. You need to understand where to get familiar with, because these are actually people who are fighting for you. RF Kennedy Jr. was an independent. He ran for president. I did a story before, so watch those about his background, where he comes from, the sacrifice that his family did. But a brief rundown, y'all already know he's the nephew of President Robert Kennedy, who was assassinated, or John F. Kennedy, who was assassinated. His dad was assassinated after he won the California delegation. I think he was going to be president also, or running. He was their pick, and he was assassinated. So I called it in one of the videos like a family curse. They're trying to prevent these guys from being president for whatever reason it appears to be. I don't have no factual information on that, but that's my own personal belief on that, because I see what they're standing for, what the things that they was trying to change, which is for the betterment of all Americans, all people, all individuals, no matter what race, color, or gender that you were at the time. They were about family. They were about a religion. They was about hardworking Americans getting paid what you actually worth instead of everything else. But let's go ahead and jump into this, man. I'm excited to do it. Like I say, it's going to be the most difficult, challenging, and the longest segment that I'm going to be able to do. So I'm going to break it down in parts. This is part one of RF Kennedy Jr. American Health Crisis Roundtable with doctors and nutritionists. Let's go. Also, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow everybody else. We appreciate y'all for rocking with us for a while. We're closing in on 3,000 subs, so we appreciate and owe that all to you for sharing, liking, commenting, and joining the channel. Let's go.
Vilified and canceled. with concerted effort made to destroy their reputations and careers. We all witnessed this during the pandemic as eminently qualified and respected doctors who had the courage and compassion to treat COVID patients using cheap, generic drugs were fired, sued, and either lost their medical licenses and certifications or had them seriously threatened. Unfortunately, this intimidation works, as most doctors remain silent in order to maintain their good standing in the medical establishment. The catalyst for this event was an interview I saw with Dr. Casey Means and her brother Callie. When it comes to nutrition, we all face the same daunting variety of opinions, guidelines, and diet recommendations. Dr. Means does an excellent job of simplifying the basic concept of how our bodies convert food to energy and how that miraculous process, and I want to underline that miraculous process, can and has been impaired. I'm grateful that she and her brother have been able to join us here today. I'm also very pleased that Robert Kennedy Jr. is here. His environmental advocacy connected him to mothers with autistic children and his subsequent advocacy for children's health and chronic illness. Because of corporate capture of regulatory agencies, the connection between environmental factors and pharmaceutical adverse impacts on health have not been adequately explored. Callie Means has helped assemble a highly qualified group of doctors and nutritional and fitness experts to discuss these issues and make a case for robust research into causes and effects. I'm extremely grateful for the time and effort all of these participants have devoted to these issues and to the event today. Again, the title of today's event is American Health and Nutrition, a Second Opinion, with emphasis on the word opinion. I am truly amazed at how much knowledge mankind has accumulated over time and how rapidly the acquisition of knowledge has accelerated in our lifetimes.
And I want to stop right there just so I won't get no copyright infringement or anything like that. Let's put this disclaimer in there. This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. No copyright infringement. And this is always done in fair use. Full link of the video would be in the description section below. So make sure y'all continue to share the content. Certain videos that I did, even though other people did the same exact thing, it was copywriting or taken down or not really warning. So I had to remove it or edit it or do whatever the case may be. I want to prevent this because this information needs to go out there. But you know how censorship is. I don't know if it's still a big thing now since the algorithm or whatever else, AI into the videos now. But since they're talking about the pandemic and prevention and everything else that goes into play, you just never know. But this information needs to get out there. So hopefully I'm allowed to do this segment right here to inform a lot of people who never sees these boards right here, doctors, lawyers, nutritionists, scientists, everybody who's working in a same accord with their belief system, trying to find out what's the cause of why Americans are so unhealthy, diseases increase, everything else has increased. Why are we? And we're supposed to be the #1 country in the world. So that's why I'm excited about this. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. I had to interject real quick. I think he's going to introduce RF Kennedy Jr. Let's go.
With that said, however, I still believe that what we don't know vastly exceeds what we do know. As we pursue a greater understanding of human health and seek answers to questions we have been discouraged to even ask, I sincerely hope we approach our quest with the humility and modesty that reality demands. With that, I'm very pleased to introduce Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Really needs no introduction, but I have a short one. He's an environmental lawyer and the chairman and founder of Children's Health Defense. He has spent 40 years fighting corrupt corporations and government agencies in efforts of restoring and protecting the health of children and ending childhood health epidemics by eliminating environmental exposures. Mr. Kennedy.
Let's go. And like I said before, if y'all don't know anything about RF Kennedy Jr., his family, research it, but I will have some articles. Watch the previous video that I did. This guy has some of the same similar beliefs than me, and he's an older white gentleman. So color don't have to go anything until like-minded individuals who all have a belief in God, family, and working hard for everything that you want to achieve in this life. Let's go ahead and jump back into it.
I want to begin by thanking Senator Johnson for his courage and the gift that he had of critical thinking, which survived the orchestrated fear that we all encountered during the pandemic. He was the only member of this body for some time that was willing to challenge the orthodoxies. He was subsequently joined by one other key member, Rand Paul, and he faced the same kind of vilification, marginalization, the demonization, the discreditization that he just referred to, that was applied in such an extraordinary way to the scientists, the medical professionals, and the people, the individuals who were injured by some of these government policies, who were systematically silenced, not only by the government agencies that are captured by the pharmaceutical companies that were profiting by hundreds of billions from these policies, and that exercise such an extraordinary control over this body, but also by the mainstream media in this country, which also gets 47% of its advertising revenue from the companies that profited during that period.
Now, I want y'all to pay attention to it. I'm going to try to slow it down for you. I know he has a raspy voice. He has health issues going on with that. He can't help that part, but the information that he's giving out is a key component to helping you understand what he's trying to say. He's saying during the pandemic time, most of the mainstream media was getting the revenue from these companies who made billions of dollars off the desperation of Americans due to fear, whatever the case, whatever certain agendas out there. We believe as Americans that we was trying to do the best interest of our family, keeping them safe, listen to the government, going out there, buying all these kits, getting tested, everything else like that. But it's only a certain group of individuals that made billions of dollars in the mainstream media. This is what he was saying. Allegedly, and let me go ahead and put that all these are alleged claims. I have no factual information from him, but if you know these guys, the attorneys and everything else that they have, we know that they're actually talking facts. They have the stats and data to back everything up they're saying. Full link the video will all be in the description below. He's talking about the mainstream media being backed by the same people who made billions of dollars during this time. Let's go. Share your comments in below.
Senator Johnson, you gave so many of us extraordinary hope during that period. I honestly don't know what would have happened to this country if you had not been there. And there was an extraordinary personal cost that you paid for it. You and I became not only professional associates, but close personal friends during that period. And you are somebody that, in my mind, was a supervillain prior to the pandemic, and now you're one of my biggest heroes, and I'm very grateful.
And if y'all know anything about it, that's Senator Ron, I think he said Ron Johnson or whatever the case may be, but they didn't agree or see eye to eye before the pandemic, but then they started realizing they got certain things similar. And these are people, senators. We often hear about all the negative stories of certain people, whatever the case may be. It could be different things that they done did in their personal life. These are still humans. They're gonna make mistakes over and over again, but they're actually some good people out there in the Senate, Congress, or whatever the case, who's actually still fighting. But one person, like I say, is the majority rule in those kind of organizations. But we don't never see the inside of these roundtables in the Congress meetings, the Senate meetings, the meetings that they actually hold or have the time to even look at it because a lot of them is public information. You can go out there and you can watch it. I, during that pandemic time, actually did watch a lot of the meetings and stuff like that. So when I did videos talking about it, I provided information that was factual from these senators, congressmen, and hardworking individuals who was actually fighting for us. But I was censored or um, given warnings by social media, whatever the case, or flagged for presenting certain content. But they also gonna talk about that. Let's go.
Discussing improvements to U.S. healthcare policy, politicians from both parties often say that we have the best healthcare system in the world. That is a lie. Mm-hmm. The U.S. healthcare system is an existential threat to our country.
Yes.
If the American experiment fails, it will not be because we had the wrong marginal tax rate. It won't be because we don't have the perfectly optimized level of social safety net spending. It won't be because of the culture war and DEI issues and the media trumpets to orchestrate the division among all of us. No, if America fails, the chief reason will be because we let our country get sicker, more depressed, fatter, more infertile at an increasing rate while crippling our national security, bankrupting our national budget with healthcare costs.
Listen to actually what he is saying. The division, the Christianity, these pastors against each other, the racial wars, the divide with police and citizens, everything else that's going on in the world doesn't compare to if America falls, it's going to be because of this one thing right here that's influencing everything else. Health and wellness is so important that a lot of people don't even realize it. But if our immune system is getting weaker, we're unable to think and have the clarity that we need. We're unable to make the strong choices for it. It goes on and on, man. But so pay attention, research, get the data from it. I have the same personal belief when it comes to this like this. Yes, we have all kind of problems going out there, but the divide is going on so many fronts. That's why they always say it's a spiritual warfare that's always happening all around you, but they keep you distracted in so many ways that you can't pinpoint what the main issues that we face each and every day, and we don't even, it goes unnoticed. That's always occurring. Let's go, man. Share your thoughts.
Every major pillar of the U.S. healthcare system, as a statement of economic fact, makes money when Americans get sick. The most valuable asset in this country today is a sick child. The pharma industry, the hospital industry, and medical school industry make more money when there are more interventions to perform on Americans. And by requiring insurance companies to take no more than 15% of premiums, Obamacare actually incentivized insurance companies to raise premiums to get 15% of a larger pie.
Did you hear what he said? I know a lot of people is for Obamacare. I wasn't personally for it myself, but Obamacare was incentivized and gained money by doing this. 15% of the pie. Rewind it, listen back to what he's saying, research it for yourself. And I'm saying all this is allegedly per RF Kennedy Jr., but I'm pretty sure he knows what he's talking about. Let's go.
The premiums have increased 100% since the passage of Obamacare.
100%.
Making healthcare the largest driver of inflation while American life expectancy plummets. We spend 4 times per capita on healthcare than the Italians. But Italians live 7.5 years longer than us on average. And incidentally, Americans had one of the highest life expectancies in the world when I was growing up. Today, we've fallen an average of 6 years behind our European neighbors. Are we lazier and more suicidal than Italians? Or is there a problem with our system? Are there problems with our incentives? Are there problems with our food? During the COVID epidemic, we had the highest body count of any country in the world. We had 17% of the COVID deaths in this country. We only had 4.2% of the world's population. We literally had the worst record of any country in the world.
Did y'all hear
There
that?
should have been a blaring wake-up call to our weakened American immune systems.
Did y'all hear what he's saying? America had the worst outcome during the pandemic. Our weakened immune system is a major problem that generally most people don't even think about. That's why I became a nutritionist. That's my way to fight. That's why I became one of the first companies out there to make my first organic greens with probiotics out there. Sadly, the pandemic crippled my business, stuff like that. But hopefully 2026, 2025, I will get that back up and running after certain funding, everything else. That's why I'm doing everything I got to do to be able to get back on point. I never got sick during that time. I always take my probiotics, my immune support system, everything, try to stay physically active. But life always keeps us busy. We're not able to do the things that we used to do. But it's small things that keep our immune system healthy. Making better choices with our nutrition. If you're going out to eat fast food, don't get the soda also. If you're going to the game, don't eat those chicken wings and drink the beer. Pick or choose either one or use portion controls when you're making these harsh choices for you. Don't do a whole cheat day, but have a cheat meal instead. Let's go.
Healthily
Trying to pause me up.
said that COVID was a pharmaceutical deficiency. This was a lie. We have the highest chronic disease rate on earth, and according to the CDC, the average American who died from COVID had, on average, 3.8 chronic diseases. So these were people who had immune system collapse, who had mitochondrial dysfunction. And no other country has anything like this. 2/3 of American adults and children suffer from chronic health issues. 50 years ago, that number.
Did you hear that? Like I said before, I'm going to try to interject, give y'all the information that might overslip or it go past your head. 2/3 of Americans have chronic illnesses, he just stated. He has the numbers right in front of him. He's reading it. Research this for yourself. Do you think it's a problem with the health and wellness of Americans right now? 2/3 of Americans have chronic illnesses or diseases, known or unknown, allegedly. Research it for yourself, find out this data, but this is a major problem. And I'm proud of RF Kennedy Jr. for bringing these stats and fighting without us even knowing or understanding what he's actually fighting for and dedicated his life to doing. I wish I was at this round table, and hopefully one day in the future I will be out there. I'm reaching out to that team. I'm trying to join it. When he's put over the health and wellness of America, I want to be a part of this team because I can hold companies actually accountable, testing their products, testing foods, and not serving us all these foods that's unhealthy, and they know it's unhealthy, and the problems that they cause. That's one of my missions out there. But let's go.
1%. When my uncle was president, about 1% of the children in this country had chronic disease. Today, that number may be as high as 60%. In America, 74% of Americans are now overweight or obese, including 50% of our children. 120 years ago, when somebody was obese, they were sent to the circus. There were case reports written about them. Obesity was virtually unknown. Today, almost 50% of teens in the United States are overweight or obese. In Japan, the childhood obesity rate is 3%. Half of Americans have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. And when I was 10 years old and my uncle was president, a typical pediatrician would see one case of type 2 juvenile diabetes during his 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 children who walk through his office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic.
1 out of 3 children.
It's causing, and diabetes, and the same mitochondrial disorder that causes diabetes is also causing the epidemic of Alzheimer's in this country. which is now classified as diabetes. And
I've
it's
been saying
costing
this for
this country
years.
in our military budget every year. It is a crisis that 77% of our kids are too disabled to serve in the United States military. In my generation, the odds and rate of autism were about 1 in 10,000. And in my kids' generation, 1 in every 34 children. In the state of California, where I live, it's 1 in 22. And by the way, there has been no change in diagnosis, which is the industry alibi. Study after study, there's been no change in screening either. Study after study shows that this is a change in incidence.
Now, y'all hear what he's saying. Over the years, the higher rates of diabetes, pre-diabetes in children, adults, all of the age brackets, it's no changes to screening, prevention, no changes in what they're saying the causes was, and no more information. And all the technology that we got. We see what they got at Atlanta Airport now, parallel, whatever they call a reality augmentation machine, which you can look on the screen and you scan your boarding pass and it says it recognizes you and it's going to share information only to you that nobody else can see. That's a whole different thing. Now you got hologram machines, you got all kind of other amazing technology that we invented out there, these small chips, whatever the case. But you telling me after all the years since he was young, that the screening prevention, the information that we have to prevent diabetes, pre-diabetes, and everything else, nothing has changed. Let's go. Share your thoughts. Let me know what you think about that.
Are in the midst of an epidemic. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? These are the most precious assets that we have in this country.
Yes.
How can we let this happen to them? How can we call ourselves a moral nation, the exemplary democracy in the world, if we are treating our children like this?
Mm-hmm.
About 18% of American teens now have fatty liver disease.
Mm.
That disease, when I was a boy, only affected late-stage alcoholics who were elderly. Cancer rates are skyrocketing in the young and old. Young adult cancers are up 79%, and 1 in 4 American women is on antidepressant medication. 40% of teens have a mental health diagnosis. 15% of high schoolers are on Adderall. And 500,000 American children are on SSRIs. No other country has anything like this. So what's causing all of this suffering? I'll name 2 culprits. First and worst is ultra-processed foods.
There you go.
70% of American children's diets is now ultra-processed, which means
listen to what he's saying. 70% of children in America's diet is ultra-processed foods. Y'all don't know anything about processed foods. What they're labeling is a level 1 carcinogen. So ultra-processed food, 70% children's diet, that's the root cause. But let's go ahead and continue. Share your thoughts. Let me know.
Manufactured in a factory. These foods consist primarily of processed sugar, ultra-processed grain, and seed oils. Laboratory scientists, many of them whom were formerly working for the cigarette industry, which purchased all of the big food companies in the 1970s and 80s.
Now, I want y'all to research this. I've been talking about this for years. Most of the main tobacco industry companies, the same owners, whatever the case, bought most of the processed food companies out there. Was this a coincidence? We don't know. It's not allegedly, it's factual. Research this for yourself. In the 70s, early years, they bought most of the processed food companies because what? Tobacco was getting pushed out, and whatever the case may be, processed foods would begin to take over. Research it for yourself is all right there, but this was amazing. Let's go.
Lloyd, there are thousands of scientists to invent new chemicals to make our food more addictive.
Yes.
And these ingredients didn't exist 100 years ago. Humans are not biologically adapted to eat them. Hundreds of these chemicals are now banned in Europe, but they are ubiquitous in American processed foods. We are literally poisoning our children.
That's why y'all see sometimes it's hard for any nutritionist out there the information that we have, that we know, and we hear these stats, numbers, we do all the data, we do the research each and every day. Even though we might not be perceived experts on all these chemicals, this and that, and certain foods, this is the problem that we all face as nutritionists, trying to keep people healthy, trying to keep their diet, trying to help others who don't care about the information. When you talk about processed foods, when you talk about man-made chemicals that's actually in the food, this is the problem that many people, it lands on deaf ear because they don't realize that these chemicals are more addictive. They cause more trouble in our body because they're not made for us to eat. These chemicals are man-made, and our bodies is not meant to handle it for long term. God has made us as amazing creatures, and we're still here fighting after poisoning ourselves daily from all these chemicals. That's why I tell people, how amazing are you? Imagine if we ate that way that God intended for us to eat. What would we look like? How strong would we be? How healthy would we be? How long would we live? I ask myself these questions each and every day because all from all fronts, all around, all these wars, divides, everything else. We're fighting battles that we don't even recognize. And we're still here. We're still strong. We're able to do the minimum things, get out of bed, walk, even if we're grunting, crackling knees, whatever the case may be. We're still able to do the small things. And we're doing our body injustice by not educating ourselves on the foods or not even caring or recognizing what we're actually doing to our bodies day in and day out. This is the challenge that I have as a nutritionist, trying to help others in multiple ways. This is our fight. But let's go ahead and continue. Share your thoughts and let me know if you even recognize or share the same perception of myself.
For profit. The second culprit is toxic chemicals in our food, our medicine, and our environment. Pesticides, food additives, pharmaceutical drugs, and toxic waste permeate every cell in our bodies. Mm-hmm. This assault on our children's cells and hormones is unrelenting. They are swimming around in a toxic soup. And to name just one problem, many of these chemicals increase estrogen because young children are ingesting so many of these hormone disruptors. America's fertility rate has now dropped. Sperm counts in teens are about 50% of what they were a couple of generations ago, and testosterone.
And let me stop right there. This is one of the main problems that I have as a nutritionist, as a trainer, as a health and wellness advocate. I talk to many men each and every day, and I'll never call their name out like that, but a lot of men in America is suffering from low testosterone. They got to get on TRT, and I used to be against TRT, but I'm finding it's going to be a necessity for the majority of men out there because they're not able to feel like men because of the low drop in testosterone levels. So we're seeing softer men. We're seeing men who are having identity issues. We're seeing men who are not physically able to do the things that they need to do or think the way they need to think because of these issues, but they're unknowingly, they don't recognize what's the root cause, or sadly don't get checked out or check the levels of their testosterone levels. That's one of the main things. I used to make my own natural testosterone boosters, which I tried and try to get it up, but that's a chemical process and stuff like that. So I always recommend people to seek out the help of professionals, their own doctor, get a full panel blood test, get a testosterone level check so they can see their levels and see what other alternatives that they can do to actually increase their levels. But I'm just letting you know my background with it and the research that I did personally to help others increase their levels. Let's go.
Rates have dropped in the same rate. American puberty rates among our little girls is now 10 to 13 years of age. Our country has the earliest puberty rate of any continent. This is 6 years younger than it was in 1900. This is not normal. Breast cancer is also estrogen driven and now strikes 1 in 8 women. We are mass poisoning all of our children and all of our adults. Industry lobbyists have made sure that most of the food stamp lunch program, about 70% of foods, most of the school lunch program, and about 70% of food stamps are processed foods.
Mm.
We give 8 times as much subsidies to tobacco in this country than we do to fruits and vegetables.
Yes.
It makes no sense if we want a healthy country. The good news is that we can change all this, and we can change it very, very, very quickly. And it starts with taking a sledgehammer to corruption, to the conflicts in our regulatory agency and in this building. These conflicts have transformed our regulatory agencies into predators against the American people, and particularly our children.
Yes.
80% of NIH grants go to people who have conflicts of interest. And these scientists are allowed to collect royalties of $150,000 a year on the products that they develop at NIH and then farm out to the pharmaceutical industry. The FDA, the USDA, and CDC are all controlled by giant for-profit corporations. Their function is no longer to improve and protect the health of Americans. Their function is to advance the mercantile and commercial interests of the pharmaceutical industry that has transformed them, and the food industry that has transformed them into sock puppets for the industry they're supposed to regulate. 75% of FDA funding does not come from taxpayers. It comes from pharma.
Did y'all hear that? 70% doesn't come from taxpayers. It comes from big pharma.
Pharma executives and consultants and lobbyists cycle in and out of these agencies. Money from the healthcare industry has compromised our regulatory agencies and to this body as well. The reality is that many congressional healthcare staffers are worried about impressing their future bosses at pharmaceutical companies rather than doing the right thing for American children. Today, over 100 members of Congress support a bill to fund Ozempic with Medicare at $1,500 a month. Most of these members have taken money from the manufacturer of that product.
Did you hear what he's saying? Most of them has took money for endorsing a product. We see this in the election. Y'all see doing, let's just go ahead and continue. But I got to stop and interject. Let y'all hear a little bit of this, because I want you to get the information that he's presenting. You probably never heard a politician or somebody else speak about these things, the challenge that we're facing day in and day out in America, knowing or unknowingly. Let's go.
A European company called Novo Nordisk. As everyone knows, once a drug is approved for Medicare, it goes to Medicaid. And there is a push to recommend Ozempic for Americans as young as 6 over a condition, obesity, that is completely preventable and barely even existed 100 years ago. Since 74% of Americans are obese, the cost of all of them, if they take their Ozempic prescriptions, will be $3 trillion a year. This is a drug that has made Novo Nordisk the biggest company in Europe. It's a Danish company, but the Danish government does not recommend it.
Mm.
It recommends a change in diet to treat obesity and exercise. Virtually Novo Nordisk's entire value is based.
Now y'all just heard what it's saying. Instead of, they recommend a change in diet, nutrition, and exercise. I just found out that now it's a way that you can request from your doctor, saying if you're overweight, you're struggling, you're having other injuries, that you can get your insurance company, request a letter of health accommodations from your doctor, and they can write you a prescription that you need a gym membership, and your insurance company has to pay for it. So it's keys, and people are bringing more information out there on ways to help you fight, because we all know that alternative medicine, your insurance won't cover it. Even though we're paying these premiums or we're paying our insurance day in and day out, we're unable to pick the doctor that we want to help heal us or cure us of certain ailments that we're fighting day in and day out. But we're only allowed to go to doctors that they recommend, even though we're paying them to make a choice for us. It doesn't make sense to me. I never approved of it. That's why I rarely go to doctors, and I always depend on alternative medicine myself personally. but I always recommend somebody else to get with their own physician to make choices about your own personal health care. But I'm just sharing mine. Let's go.
Its projections of what Ozempic is going to sell to Americans. For half the price of Ozempic, we could purchase regeneratively raised organic agriculture or organic food for every American, 3 meals a day, and gym membership for every obese American. Why are members of Congress doing the bidding of this Danish company instead of standing up for American farmers and children? Because Novo Nordisk is one of the largest funders of medical research.
Now, I want y'all to rewind that back real quick and listen to what he said. Instead of trying to fund this, whatever the medicine is right there, we're able to, everybody who's obese, purchase organic fruits and veggies and a gym membership form free of charge with the money they spend in the same product right here. But let's go ahead and continue. Rewind it back. Don't quote me on that. Rewind it. Hear all the information. I don't want to rewind it and mess up the video right here. But this is almost the conclusion of part one. I was supposed to be doing my workout, but I'm so passionate about getting this first one out there. Part one of this health and nutritionist second opinion roundtable that I'm just going to go ahead and bite the bullet because I'm so passionate about this. And this is the information that you need to hear. Let's go.
And politicians and the medical schools all go wrong along with them. For 19 years, solving the childhood chronic disease crisis has been the central goal of my life. And for 19 years, I have prayed to God every morning to put me in a position to end this calamity. I believe we have the opportunity for transformational bipartisan change to transform American health.
Yes.
To hypercharge our human capital, to improve our budget, and I believe to save our spirits and our country. I am grateful for Senator Johnson's focus on this country's most important issue. Thank you.
Like I say, I'm grateful. I just want to share this part one right there. And y'all seen RF Kennedy Jr. actually speaking on that right there. Let me go ahead and stop this share. All right, like I was saying before, man, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. This is part one of American Health and Nutrition Roundtable, a second opinion. RF Kennedy Jr. just finished up his speech. Man, this is only going to get better and better. You're going to have other nutritionists. You're going to have other people in the industry who are fighting the same fight that I'm fighting myself personally. I wish I was there in person, but these are certain things that we often just go unknowingly. We don't know anything about it. We don't think people are actually out there fighting for us, advocating for us, trying to make a change, being unsuccessful, but they're actually speaking out it and bringing more light to it. We have the power as American peoples to make the change if we back these people. But sadly, the media out there give you false information or information that is not presented in the best suitable way for these candidates or for these people. Only thing we hear about is the smear campaigns and negative information, but we don't even recognize that they're fighting for us in ways that we can not know that actually will make change for all of us in the future, in the present, and in our child's life each and every day. But I'm not going to keep rambling on. Like I said, all the information in here is educational and informational purposes only. No copyright infringement intended. Full link for the video will be in the description section below. This is only part one, and we got more work to do. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for like, subscribing, and sharing the content. Share this information. Watch it over and over and over. Comment. Shed the light on this because I'm just getting started with it. I'm passionate about it. We all need to understand and recognize the power that we have as Americans. Y'all let your voice be heard during the election time. We missed a great candidate in RF Kennedy Jr., but I don't think that was his time to actually be president. I think his voice is better suited just doing the things that he's doing right here. And I think Trump actually put him in a place to make lasting change for all of us. Anybody who still is out there mentioning they have faith, they have a desire to help us, even knowingly or unknowingly, and we know they fight in dedication to it, that speaks volume to me. His character is impeccable. So I appreciate y'all for tuning in. We're only getting started. Hey, with that, it's your boy Cut That's 50. This is One on One. We out.